Guys, I have got a really awesome melodic death metal riff in E standard tuning that I want you to learn today, and I really think you're going to have a fun time learning this riff. It's all about one specific technique, and this technique, when you get really good at it, I mean, you can do so much more with the rhythms. Of course, we're going to cover that technique in a second here, but two things real quick. If you're a Patreon supporter, you have the backing tracks and the tabs to this lesson. Basically, what I do with my Patreon supporters is I provide backing tracks and tabs to at least 2 of my lessons each month. Also, hang around for our guitar chat. I'm going to share why I did this riff in standard tuning. We're going to talk a little bit more about tunings in general, so hang around for that at the end of the video. All right, before we start the lesson, guys, let me just play the riff out in the open. No backing tracks, just raw guitar here. Now, before we break down the notes, let's talk technique. So the primary technique you're going to be using here is the alternate picking. We're going back and forth, and that's what gives it that really raw death metal-y sound. And the riff itself is very melodic in nature, so it's perfect for that melodic death metal vibe here. And again, we are in standard tuning here, E standard tuning here. So what we're doing, this is in the key of E minor, by the way. We're going to be playing first that E string, that open E string, and we're going to be picking back and forth on that, and then we're going to carry that same back and forth alternate picking throughout the rest of the riffs that we're going to be playing. But the culprit here is always going to revert back to that open E string. So for example, see how I went back to the E string. We do that until we get to that F sharp note, which we'll get to that in a second here. So I just want to kind of break that down and simplify that for you. Actually, before we move forward, here are the notes. Let's just talk about the notes real quick here, because I know this part really helps even simplify things even more. Again, open E string. Next, we'll go to frets 5 and 7. 7, 5, 7, okay? After that, back to the open E. Remember, that's the culprit starting out here, right? We're going to go back to that open E, and then we'll head over to the A string and play frets 3, 2, 3. So like this. Keeping that same concept in mind, back to open E. Then we're going to play frets 7, 5, 7 on the A string. Remember, we played that earlier on the E string. We're just going to play it on the A string this time. Let's go through that slowly one more time, okay? Now I want you to apply the alternate picking to that, okay? And you can go through this slowly. Don't worry about the cadence or any of that right now. We're just getting the technique down, okay? So let's just kind of go through that slowly. Now, before we go to the next part of this riff, which is going to be that F sharp, and that's going to sound really, really cool, by the way, and it's kind of, there's a little complexity, but I'm going to try to simplify that with the concept that we just went over. And I want you guys to think about this. I strongly encourage you to do this. Take off with it. Like, try some other stuff. Yeah, I want you to continue the video, learn the riff that we're going through here, because I think it's a fun riff to play, but I just always want you to be thinking, okay, I got the technique down. Let me try some other stuff with this technique, with this concept. So I just want to kind of put that bug in your ear. It's not a real bug, by the way. Next, we're going to go to the F sharp note. Same concept. Remember, we said the E was kind of our culprit, that open E string. We went back to that. Well, now our starting point is going to be the F sharp note, okay, which is the 2nd fret of your E string. So here are the notes. We're going to play that E string, 2nd fret, but then our other notes that accompany that are going to be on the A string, 5, 2, 5. So it's like this. just apply the alternate picking technique. And I'd like for you to go through that a few times. Go ahead and let's do that together now. Let's go through that just a few times, 3 or 4 times here, okay? Just get used to it. And if you need to pause the video, guys, at any point, feel free to pause the video and just go through that. I encourage you to do that because that's just a great way to really learn these riffs and get them down and, again, grasp the technique that we're using here. So let's put that together, okay? Let's put all that together because there is a little complexity, you know, playing on that open E string with those other notes that we're going to play through here and then going to that 2nd fret. So let's go through that. So the part of this riff that might present a slight challenge to you, especially if you're new to the alternate picking, this style of metal here, is going from that A string. Remember the 7-5-7, we finish out with that. Then instead of going to that open E, you're going to be going to that 2nd fret, okay? You're going to have a tendency to go to the open E because we've been doing that every time, right? Until we get to the last part. But that's what makes this riff so interesting. So this is the part here. So again, let's go through this a few times, okay? We're not going through the whole piece here. We're just ending the 5-7-5 on the A string, going straight to that 2nd fret of the E string, okay? Just getting our fingers used to doing something a little different than what they've been doing up to this point, okay? Again, guys, if you need to pause the video, pause it and go through that. Okay, let's go through this entire riff together. I'm going to play it slow the first time around, maybe the first 2 times around, and then we'll kind of speed it up a little bit. But hang around because we've got another part to this riff here. It's pretty simple, but it makes it really cool. So we'll get to that in a second. So here's the second part to this riff, and really everything remains the same except for that very last note. Now, I love these types of chords. Love them, love them, love them. And really what it is we're playing that F sharp, the E string, 2nd fret, over to the A string, 5th fret there. Now you'd play a normal F sharp power chord 2 and 4 like this. But if you stretch that next finger out to the 5th fret, you get this. It just sounds cool, and I've got several videos on like variations of power chords that I like to play around with, but that's one of them. But in any case, you know, we're kind of just playing that power chord there, but we've got a little gallop in there as well. And a gallop, all that is a 1, 2, 3, okay? I'm galloping that 2nd fret, 1, 2, 3, then I open that string, play the open E string, then back to that power chord. And I just keep my fingers in position here. I keep my pinky on that 5th fret of the A string throughout the whole time, right? Even though I'm only playing that the last time around. So again. That's pretty much it. So you'd go through the entire riff just like we did earlier, but the last part is that. So it sounds like this. There's one more thing I almost forgot, and you would have been very upset with me had I not brought this up. So listen to the mix again really quick. Listen, there's a second guitar that you'll hear that's harmonizing. So check this out. I need to show you what those notes are, but more than that, I'm going to show you a very easy way to figure out a really cool harmony for your single notes like this. Okay, so remember, we started out with this. Okay, open E, and then we played 7-5-7, right? So we're harmonizing. There's another guitar in there that starts harmonizing the second time around. So instead of doing this, that guitar is actually doing this. That second guitar is doing this. And that is 10-8-10, okay? How I figured that out, this is a really easy way to do that, is just take that note, the 7th fret, for example, okay? We know we start with that. You're going to count up the 3rd note from that note. Now, not 3rd fret, okay, because that would be, that's not the right note. You count up the 3rd note within that key, within that progression there. So that would be, okay? Same thing with the 5th fret. You would count up the 3rd note from that within that progression. And guys, that's something we'll talk about in another video. That takes more explaining. But in any case, you're counting up the 3rd note. That 3rd note is going to harmonize almost perfectly. So for the riff where we're playing 7-5-7, my noise gate's off there. There we go. Might be a little bit better. 7-5-7, we're going to be playing 10-8-10. So one guitar is doing this, the other guitar is doing this. Okay, the other notes real quick, we'll just make this quick here. Instead of 3-2-3, your harmonizing guitar is going to be playing 7-5-7 on the A string. So, which that's actually the next part that we play. So when that first guitar goes to that part, A string 7-5-7, well, the second guitar harmonizing is going to go, and this is where it gets a little tricky because again, it's the 3rd note within that progression, not just the 3rd note, okay? So that's going to be 10-9-10. So one guitar is doing this, the second guitar harmonizing doing this. And that's pretty much how you harmonize a second guitar, which again sounds really, really cool when you start doing that. All right, guys, time for our guitar chat here. We're going to talk a little bit about downtuning and why Jason prefers E standard tuning. But real quick, before we get into that, if you do not have my metal guitar course called Metal Riff Master, there's a link in the description of this video for that. And I want to say a big thank you to everyone who has bought my courses, any of my guitar courses. Guys, I really appreciate your support. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. While we're talking about support, please give this video a thumbs up real quick and make sure you're subscribed to my channel. I am constantly putting out metal guitar and even some solo gigging content for you. So you may have expected a melodic death metal riff to be in some other tuning, at least drop D or down tuned to something else other than E standard. I have down tuned guitars to other tunings, I think C, C sharp minor, E flat, D. I do like D standard a lot, I can say that. Actually, I have a project that I'm going to be working on in 2023 where I'm going to record that project in D standard tuning. But in any case, most of the time, 99% of the time, I prefer E standard tuning. And I want to share just one thing in regards to that. I would rather get my low frequencies from the bass guitar. So that's why I have a 5-string bass. This is a LTD, you guys have seen this on here before. This is an ESP LTD D5 5-string bass. I would rather get my low-end frequencies from this instrument than my guitar. And again, I love a lot of bands that downtune. It's probably more than 50% of what I listen to, maybe more, especially in the gym. I'm always cranking up some Arch Enemy and Amon Amarth and those bands, and I'll sometimes do a station based on a song by them. So you've got more bands in that genre. So yeah, I'm not against it. I just prefer, for me, to stay in standard tuning. And on that note, guys, I want to make one more quick point before we end the video here. It's okay to listen to this but be playing something else. And I think sometimes we can get caught up in that trap of, well, I'm listening to this over here, but when you sit down to write and sit down to just play, something else completely different comes out. And that's just a natural flow, so allow that to happen, right? Sometimes we can kind of force it on ourselves to play music that, yeah, we might listen to it and might like it, but as we're playing and writing, that might not be the thing that's coming out of this. I hope that that makes sense. And maybe we'll do another video, kind of a guitar chat, maybe a live session where we elaborate more on that concept, because it's very interesting. I've found myself trapped in that too. It's like, well, I like this over here, I'm listening to it, but when I sit down to play, other things come out. Well, let whatever is naturally coming out of you, just let that happen. Don't try to force yourself into any subgenre or any bucket. Don't box yourself in. Just allow yourself that freedom to write what you want to write and play what you want to play, whatever it may be. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, drop those in the comments, guys. You know what to do. Until the next video, as always, keep it metal.